Hello, Cameron.
Hey, Connie.
Wonderful to have you here.
Thanks. Always a great pleasure to be here.
It's not your first visit to the museum, isn't it?
Nope. I've been enjoying this museum since I moved to Berlin, and also your support. Thanks for that. It's worth noting for the audience, you know, the Musikinstrumenten-Museum is a place for everybody. You don't have to be a musician or a historian or a music nerd like us, because really this is a museum about the lengths to which people will go for expression and for sound and for, you know, the musical version of art, but in all of its forms and over many, many centuries. You have instruments over here
from the 16th century on.
So the 16th century on, and of course.
A lot of instruments are in playable condition here. This is a very special thing here, It's different to some other collections.
So that you can hear things as well. Yeah, but that's the important thing. I think you know, I come from a non-musical family, and I can imagine my father before he died kind of scratching his, you know, why would I go see an instrument museum when I can't myself play? But that's not the only reason we go. And you know, the things that you learn and the things that you discover in a place like this are almost never what you might expect. Also for me, it's kind of a museum about people. Actually, for me at least, what we do, how we think about things, and what we leave behind, what we consider important. Because you have to remember that behind every instrument, whether it's like this or one of your unbelievable hand-carved vanitas shams or something from the 17th century or 16th century, behind every one of those instruments, there's a person breaking their back with work. And why, though? You know, what were they doing? What were they trying to show? And why was it so important to spend lifetimes on these things?
How they worked, how they communicated over big distances, and large distances. And what's so important for me is that we have no tape records or something else from the centuries before.
Right.
But the instruments, the music instruments, are they bring to us the sound, or how they felt, or how they thought about making instruments.
That's right.
Communications on.
Well, with the organ builders, we know, you know, of their studies of Pythagoras, of the mathematics, and of the matters of proportion and scale, the calculation of the cylinder, and all these things. It's pretty sophisticated stuff.
If you look, for example, to a Silbermann organ, it's so perfect, and so on. And there is this tradition, and it's important to remember the tradition, which is
absolutely. You might think I would disagree, but actually, I'm the most traditional in that sense, because I really appreciate how you can learn, you know, so much from every aspect of the instrument. What we do on stage as a performer is a different thing. That's where you have your rights as a performer. But you know, as a lover of music and a lover of the instruments, it's important to appreciate the history, and we can do that here, not just with organ, but with so many different instruments.
And what fascinates me is that if you have these instruments from the 16th century, the materials and so on, how they function, and how the sound comes out, and it's produced the sound, and the same thing happens with the electronic instruments in the 20th and 21st century.
So, Dr. Ressel, let's talk a little bit about your exhibitions here. What's on view that we can see?
The title of the exhibition is Klangkunstkonstruktion, which is sound,
art, and construction.
And construction. This is exactly what's in an organ in itself.
Fascinating stuff.
So it's the whole thing. What I think. The word organ says, Organ is something like we in Germany say a Werkzeug, something like your tools you have for making music.
Right. I could also call it a Flugzeug, but that's all right. But of course, if we come here, we also get the benefit of seeing the permanent collection. I'm just looking around the room. I can see such a wealth of things. So let's take a look. Dr. Russell, thank you so much for this tour. It's always great to visit, and I can never tear myself away from the instruments. That's partly because you're so generous.
I see. It was great to have you here.
Thanks.
It was a great pleasure. Listen to your art, to playing the organs, and to the fascination you give us when you play the organ and so on.
Well, I really want to encourage everybody to visit the museum. Don't be like me. Keep your hands off stuff unless you're invited. It's just a really special place, special collection, and a really special person in charge of it, and we're all grateful for that. So let's all be sure to visit the Musikinstrumenten-Museum when you're in Berlin. Little something.